Okay, so today's video is going to be about how do I know if I'm an empath. As always, you are my mission, empaths are my mission, and my path, the way I choose to follow is through Christ in my life. So let's go ahead and get started. How do you know if you're an empath? I get this question, or I got this question months and months ago from a early empath, or someone who just had kind of discovered being an empath. And there was a lot of doubt, and there still is, right? A lot of doubt associated with people when it comes to being an empath. So I'm going to give you kind of like 3 tips. A part of this, actually, the book is not about this, but I got it from the very end of Desiring God's Will that I'm reading. It was an interesting way that he talked about discernment. So I'm going to talk about how an empath knows that they are an empath. There's going to be 3 steps, and then I'm going to just briefly talk about what to do if someone says they're an empath, but it's not, you don't feel that they're an empath. Okay, so that's a quick one at the end. Number 1, okay, so there are 3 ways of discernment in this, for me, right, in this case. Number 1, the way that you know you are an empath is that you feel it. Okay, so this is obviously, it's not measurable yet, but I think that emotions, the idea that human beings feel emotions in the same places, right? Embarrassment, or, love, or, like that gut feeling you get, something telling you you're off. So it's not measurable yet, but I do think at a certain point people will start to really understand the mind, the body, the spirit, and how they work. So the first step, the first kind of, clue is you sense truth. So whenever I'm operating in spirit and in truth, there's a certain feeling that comes with being an empath. In the beginning, it might be chills on your skin when you feel the Holy Spirit, you feel truth being spoken, but the knot in my stomach goes away. It just disappears. There's no fear, there's no worry, there's no confusion, there's only truth. My heart is open and it's vulnerable. My chest is tingling, my arms are tingling, my feet are tingling. When I'm operating in truth, when I hear truth, unadulterated, because truth is from God, right? I feel light, both in light as in, illumination, and also light as in weight. So the first part of being an empath is you will feel it. When someone, or if someone tells you or says, are you an empath, you feel it. There's an inch of truth. It might be just a little string because you've put up a lot of barriers, but there's a small string kind of pulling at your heart that shows you, that pulls you kind of towards truth and towards God. So as for empaths in general, our hearts are our compass. So this is keeping going with the emotions, right? Your heart will point you towards the truth when it comes to being empath. Now, this doesn't mean that we have some sort of higher moral compass, or doesn't mean we're more moral or more of a sense of morality. We are more sensitive and porous to truth, right? So if I'm not facing God, I will feel it strongly, as opposed to when I'm facing God and in His presence and operating in spirit and truth, and I feel light and airy and content, right? So generally speaking, we're more sensitive, so our heart, when it's turned away from God or away from the truth, it's going to feel like death. It's going to feel like when you feel a lie, right? It feels dirty or corruptible. So for the empath, your heart is going to be your compass, and you can feel whether it's facing towards God or away from God, towards truth and light or away from truth and light. And let me say that when we're doing this in this whole sort of heart compass, listening to your emotions, the heart can be deceitful, right? And we need to make sure that we're putting everything on God first. So what do I mean by that? It means that a lot of times I can put, for instance, the worry of a world or the stress or whatever above God, and understanding that God is greater, not understanding that God is greater. So my compass might shift, right, towards the world. And I might not notice it first if I'm not doing my own check and saying, am I operating in God's presence? So I could be facing south or whatever way. So my own moral judgment is off. So always when I'm using my gift or using the sense, there's humility and there's love covering it to make sure that I'm always pointing towards God's direction. And if I'm not, right, correct, right, turn towards God. So again, sensitivity, you know what life and light looks like, feels like, and you know what death feels like. So now when it comes to being a child, right, how do I know I'm an empath? I've been an empath since birth. Some people talk about having an awakening at a certain point, but a lot of times as empath children, we're told to be less sensitive, right? So when we're told to be less sensitive, if we don't understand that as a child, that means that we kind of take it as don't feel or put up walls. When I was a child, or even actually until like last year, I thought other people could feel other people's emotions just like I could, and I just thought they were awful people, right? Like you can tell, you know that I know that you're lying, but actually, you know, some people don't have this ability, don't have the discernment. So as children, we take this as don't feel or put up a wall or barrier between our feelings, right? So we've learned to put these barriers up towards feeling any sort of weakness, right? But the Bible tells us when we're weak, that's when we're strong. So, and then especially even now, a lot of times we've told ourselves from childhood all the way up to adulthood that we're not different, right? We're not different. Now, no one really wants to be different, but a lot of people, most people want to be special, right? So just look at it that way. Being different means that you have a special gift, right? And everyone has their own gift. But with us, your gift is your heart. Your gift is discernment, which way you're facing. You kind of a bit of a moral compass when you're under humility and love. So, I recently had a conversation with a friend who we discussed that, about being an empath, and maybe I'll do a video later about kind of empath missionary work, bringing people, into their own truth and authenticity. And I asked her, do you feel other people's emotions? And she said, no, I don't feel others' emotions, but I know how people feel before she even talks to them, right? So I said, before you even talk to them, that is the same. So what you're actually doing is you've likely put up, and I'm not speaking for her, I don't know her journey, but you've likely put up walls so you cannot feel other people's emotions, but also you can't feel a lot of your own emotions then. Emotions, just to understand that we've put up these walls of protection that you don't need anymore, okay? Whatever pain or hurt or whatever is coming towards you, God is greater than that pain, and you are stronger. So, emotions are your superpower. Feel all of it. You are strong, and I want you to kind of relax and kind of embrace your gift without suppressing, ignoring, or blocking. Your power is in being relaxed, weak, and vulnerable, and allowing God's protection to come over you and not your own. Okay, so that's number one, is just through feeling, a spirit of truth, a feeling of truth. Number two, rational examination. Now, a lot of my thinkers, my feelers, we have feelers and thinkers. A lot of my thinkers, they're like, yeah, bam. But you saw what number one was, okay? So feel. Number two is rational examination. So you can use Judith Orloff's test, empath test. Now, you can take a spiritual gifts test. There's this gift of discernment of good and evil, right? But it's also, once you learn about being an empath or learning that empaths exist, memories are going to come up. Instances in which your gift was, discernment was used, that you didn't realize that you were using it. Like, oh no, I just don't mess with that person, right? Or oh no, that is a bad idea, I'm not even going to touch it, and something awful happens. So, especially when I first kind of introduced the idea of being an empath to people, I'm just planting a seed. Right? I don't try to push. I don't try to, water it myself. It's up to them to water. So, rational examination, you're going to remember things from your past. You're going to start noticing things in the way that you operate with people now. Also, seeing, like I said, how people react to you. Do people come to you with counsel? Do they share intimate details with you? It's not just, your gift is kind of fulfilled through other people. So the second one is going to be about rational examination, just looking and kind of testing, seeing if it's true, right? So empath test, Judith Orloff, spiritual gifts test, you can find one on the internet. How people react to you, and then memories. Now, once you discover you're an empath, you're going to find that God is going to bring little reminders of it until you kind of accept it, which happened to me, right? I had the book, Judith Orloff book, forever before I actually opened it up. And I had someone just tell me, open it up. So things are going to start coming to you. Oh, look at that. So for me, I actually, after I kind of discovered that I was an empath through me just kind of sitting in meditation, and I heard a small voice say, these emotions are not your own. And I had no idea what that meant. So I started Googling, right? But then afterwards, with work, right, I had a 360 assessment, like an emotional intelligence assessment that was paid for by work, right? And the person who did my debriefing actually told me, they said, are you an empath? And I was like, what the, this is work. And she's like, you tested high off the scale of being an empath. And this person was an empath. So after I kind of started my journey, I sent the person an email and I just said, I want to thank you for, you confirming, you watering that seed for me. Okay, so the second one, number two, is rational examination. The third one is counsel. Now, generally speaking, when I come to empath, or actually, I'm going to say always now, most empaths don't want my help. So when it comes to counsel, we seek generally our own counsel, right? But that's putting a lot of burden on us when we're a body, right? And if the hand hurts, the arm's going to be affected. So we have issues with trust because we can tell when people are lying and trusting people. But I seek trusted counsel. Whenever, I have a question, I'm going to use this for other people. I've had someone come to me and say that I'm an empath, and I have a group of empaths that, kind of meet. We have a circle, connect with my Facebook group and our Facebook, connecting with them. And anyway, so there was someone who came to, who was in our group, and it just didn't feel right. It felt like they were taking. Now, I didn't say, hey, you're out of the group, right? And the person is still my friend. But I asked for counsel. So I asked 2 or 3 empaths open questions and just sat and listened. So seek counsel. You're going to find that, 20% of the population is an empath. So you likely have empaths around you. Find someone that is trusted. Now, I've trusted the wrong person in the first exercise of trust that I had, and I got an awful, response to it. But then I realized quite early, that's not the person that feels light. Why did you choose to consult? You were setting yourself up for failure. So find trusted counsel and use, number 1, discernment to define that counsel, your emotions. And that person's going to feel like light. Now, with counsel, if you're seeking counsel from empaths, or, you can for a religious leader or whatever, but if you're seeking counsel from empaths, understand that when we're together, we're stronger. When I've had an empath meeting, it's almost buzzing with, I don't know, energy and positivity and light. So seek people who feel that same way to you. Okay, last part quickly, because this is a longer video. What do I do if someone isn't an empath and comes to me? Absolutely nothing. It's between them and God. I feel that it's not my job to tell people who they aren't. Empaths, whenever empaths know kind of when they're taking from your reserve. So I've had empaths that can feed, just like any. So it's not above empaths to feed off or send negative energy. But they also know when they're taking. I told an empath once who wanted to go for a walk, do you want to talk to me or you want to feed off me? And she actually said, feed off you. And I was like, oh. So in their heart, empaths kind of know. But when it's a non-empath, when it comes to groups and meetings, I don't really I allow safe space for empaths. Meaning once an empath and another empath has told me that someone is not an empath, they're still my friend, they're still in my circle, but they're not in my circle of empaths that I seek to minister to. Right. So again, and then what if someone says they're an empath and you feel that they're not? Like I said, I don't do anything because my authority is subject to God, and I might not just be able to feel them. They might be a special kind of empath, and also being an empath is on a spectrum. So most people can feel empathy. But some people don't have the gift, but it's also up to them to live authentically them. And it's not my job to judge them because they might be latent. I don't know. I don't know everything about everyone, but I use my own discernment when it comes to my circle of trusted friends. So again, I'm wishing you love, light, and guidance through the Holy Spirit. And let me know if you have any comments about how do I know if I'm an empath. Thank you.